Hi, I'm Meg. Welcome to plantfitmeg. Welcome back to the channel. In my previous video, my partner Marsh discussed how he decided to eat a plant-based diet and how he gradually went vegan over time. And so I thought it was a great opportunity for me to jump in today and discuss how I went vegan overnight and sort of how I came to that decision, what influenced it, and then how I got started and how I went about it. I'll also share my top tips for going vegan, whether your plan is to go vegan overnight or to gradually transition into a vegan lifestyle. So here we go. So I think I should give a little context first to what was happening before I went vegan to sort of set the scene and let you in on what was going on in my life at that time and what my eating habits were and things like that. So it was 2016, so I've been vegan for almost 9 years now. I had been cancer-free for a decade, which was a very exciting milestone to be reaching. And I was also a new mom. I had a 4-month-old at the time that I made the decision to go vegan. And Marsh and I were really trying to decide how we would feed our kiddo and, what would his first foods be? What would his eating pattern generally look like? And our eating habits were not the best. During my pregnancy, I did try to get in as many greens as possible through smoothies, and I was nauseous my entire pregnancy, so I drank a lot of smoothies throughout my pregnancy. But our eating pattern was very much standard American diet, quite highly processed foods, and I was sitting there thinking, I can't feed my child this way. So something's gotta give, something's gotta change, but I didn't know what to do or how to go about it. Also, as a cancer survivor, I was surviving, but I wasn't really thriving. I wasn't feeling, great amounts of energy or anything like that. I had several chronic health issues, including asthma, endometriosis, chronic pain, and chronic fatigue. So I stumbled upon a few documentaries. One of the first ones I watched was Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead with Joe Cross, and he had an autoimmune condition that he was trying to improve and potentially reverse with diet. I watched Forks Over Knives, which was incredibly impactful for me, and it discusses the health implications of eating a whole food plant-based diet and also environmental implications of eating plants versus eating meat. I watched Cowspiracy, which really delves into the environmental aspects and the animal agriculture industry. And I also watched Chris Carr's Crazy Sexy Cancer about her experience being diagnosed with cancer and thriving with that cancer diagnosis and doing the best she can to live a full life and enjoy despite having cancer. So all of these documentaries really impacted me heavily, and I was curious to know more. So I took to my computer and started doing research. I actually typed in, what is the healthiest diet to feed a child? What is the healthiest diet for human health? And I was really looking to find answers, and I found a lot of great resources, including nutritionfacts.org, the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, and many other resources. And everything I was finding was leading me into a plant-based diet, and more specifically, a whole food plant-based diet. So with all of this information about health and how to really improve my health and be as healthy as possible, I decided that I would eat a fully plant-based diet. And after watching a couple more videos, a couple more documentaries about veganism, I made the decision to live a vegan lifestyle as well. A couple of things I watched that were very impactful for me were 101 Reasons to Go Vegan on YouTube and also Earthlings. Earthlings is very intense to watch, and it's very, very difficult watch, and I cried through most of the film, and I was sitting watching it through my fingers for parts of the time because it is very graphic and shows the true nature of what happens in the animal agriculture industry. So after gathering all this information, it was really an easy decision for me to make, and I felt very strongly about going vegan and living a vegan lifestyle and trying to keep it as healthy as possible at the same time and eating as much of a whole food plant-based diet as possible. I honestly didn't really know where to start because in a lot of these documentaries and these films, they try to make it look accessible, they try to make it look easy, and it was so foreign to me. I didn't know anyone else who was vegan. I had only known 2 people in my entire life who were even vegetarian, and that seemed super foreign and unusual to me, and I wasn't really in close contact with those people at the time. One was a previous work colleague, and one was someone I used to go to school with. So I didn't really have anyone to lean on to get recipes or get information. My mom was actually interested in going into a more plant-based way of eating as well, so that was helpful for sure, because we could bounce ideas off of each other a little bit and chat about what we were going to make and how we were going to make this work. But I was the only vegan I knew. So to get started, I decided that I really wanted to reset my taste buds. I was concerned that if I just jumped into eating, you know, potatoes and rice and chilies and things like that, that I did enjoy, but that weren't those heavily processed foods that I was more accustomed to, I didn't think that they would be that appealing or that exciting for me. So I did decide to do a juice fast for a few days, and this isn't something that I would recommend to everybody or recommend to anyone who wants to go vegan. I think there are so many different ways to go about it and so many different ways to start eating a plant-based diet, and to do it more gradually if that's comfortable for you, or to just eat real food and not necessarily go the juicing route. But for me, I thought it would be the simplest way, because then I could follow a little program. I would just juice what I needed to juice. I had the grocery list. I would buy the thing. I would juice the food and then just drink the juices for a few days and not have to think too much about what I was going to cook and what I was going to make, because that was really overwhelming for me in the beginning. I was not someone who liked being in the kitchen. I was not someone who enjoyed cooking at all. I would stay out of there as much as possible. So I knew it was going to be a very big transition and a big change for me. And at the same time, I just felt so strongly about it that I knew this was something that was really important to me and something that I wanted to try. It was something that I knew for my health would be beneficial, and that it would be obviously good for the animals and good for the environment as well. So I embarked on my juice fast. I used the Reboot with Joe program. I don't know if it still exists or not. If it does, it was just a free program at the time. I'll link it below if I can find it. But again, that's not something I necessarily recommend to anyone wanting to go vegan. It is more on the extreme side of things. Also, in starting the juicing, I told myself I can quit at any time. If I'm not feeling good, if I have headaches, if I don't feel well, if it just doesn't seem quite right, I gave myself full permission to quit at any moment and just eat real food and switch it up. So I did that for 5 days. I did the juicing for 5 days. I had a hot meal sort of halfway through, and I just ate potatoes and mixed vegetables. It was very simple, but because I had just been juicing and not eating anything, it was the most delicious thing I'd ever eaten. And that was my goal, was to really reset my taste buds and enjoy and appreciate the taste and flavor of vegetables and other plant-based foods. So within that first 5 days, I did the juicing, and I was planning for, okay, what's my next step? What is my following week going to look like? Because I'm not going to continue with this juicing thing long term. That's not going to be sustainable. That's not something I can keep up with. It's probably not ideal for my health either. So real food, what am I going to do? So I started out super duper simple. I knew I did not want to spend a ton of time in the kitchen. I knew that I wouldn't spend a ton of time chopping and doing a whole lot of stuff. I didn't have a lot of culinary skills. I didn't know how to mix and match spices and things like this. So I decided to keep it as simple as possible. I purchased a lot of store-bought sauces in the beginning to help me out, to make stir fries or to make curries and things like that, so that it would just be really easy to just throw ingredients together and ta-da, dinner's ready. I focused on foods that I was already eating and enjoying that just happened to be vegan. For me, before I went vegan, the prospect of going vegetarian or going vegan just seemed so outlandish, and it was, what would you even eat? I remember having a conversation with one of my vegetarian colleagues, and shout out to Caitlin. I'm sure she's not watching this video at all, but anyway, and I remember asking her, you know, how do you do this? How do you eat a vegetarian diet? Like, it must be so hard and it must be so impossible. Like, what do you even eat? And she just sort of turned to me and said, I eat the same flavors that everyone else does. I eat curries, I eat stir fries, I eat pizza, I eat these things. I just remove the meat from it. And so that really stuck with me over the years, and since having that conversation with her all those years before. And I realized I can recreate a lot of the same dishes and the same foods that I really like and just take out the meat and just replace it with something else. I can take out the ground beef and I can add lentils, or I can add beans or tofu or TVP or any number of other ingredients. I also thought about other simple swaps, like for my smoothies. I could literally just put plant milk in it instead of cow's milk, and ta-da, it was vegan, and it was very easy to do, very simple, very straightforward, nothing complicated there. And so I focused on these foods that I really liked, that I ate already, that were familiar, that were comforting, that I enjoyed, and flavors that I really liked. I have a whole video about what I ate in my first week as a vegan, so I'll link that up here and in the description box if you want to go check it out, and how I kept it super duper simple and got started. But essentially it was smoothies, oatmeal, cereal, toast, chilies, stir fries, soups, really simple, really, really easy, really accessible foods. And as I was getting the food situation sorted out and figuring out what I was going to eat and kind of making a bit of a plan week to week for what I needed to shop for and make sure I have it in the house, make sure it's fresh and good to go, and carve out the time to cook my meals and make it work with my lifestyle. I was also considering how to veganize the rest of my life. So obviously your diet is a massive part of going vegan, and it's sort of the first main switch that people make, but there's also the considerations of vegan products, cruelty-free products, hygiene things, apparel, all sorts of everything else that you use in your life. So I started to pay a lot more attention to that. I switched to natural deodorants, which was a whole adventure in and of itself. If you've ever switched from sort of the traditional deodorant to a more natural one, that's a whole adventure in and of itself. If you want a video specifically about deodorant, I'd be happy to talk about it. A little bit random, but it's a thing. And I started paying attention to my cosmetics. I tried using things up that I already had that weren't vegan, or I gave a lot of things away that weren't vegan. And then whenever I'd repurchase something, I would do my absolute best to buy things that were vegan and were cruelty-free. I also didn't know in the beginning that there was a distinction between a vegan product and a cruelty-free product. I thought it was the same thing. So in case you're not aware of that, there is a bit of a distinction there. So a vegan product is something that does not contain any animal byproducts in the finished product. And then a cruelty-free item is one that has not undergone animal testing. For vegans, we want both of those things. And so that was what I was looking for and trying to find. Sometimes in the beginning, it can be easier to just go for vegan companies and go for full lines of product that are vegan, so that you don't have to be looking at each individual ingredient or Googling or trying to figure it out that way. I'll leave a few links below for some different suggestions that way. But I find these days, compared to 8-9 years ago, companies are getting a lot better at just putting a vegan label and putting a cruelty-free label on products, so you don't have to do as much Googling and searching and digging to find which products are vegan and cruelty-free. So that's really, really helpful. In the second part of the video, I'm going to share my top tips for going vegan. My first one is education. So gather information, find books, documentaries, podcasts, do your research, check online, find information, and have that be a continuous process. My next tip is to lean into why you're going vegan. So sometimes people have really interesting reasons for going vegan, really unusual reasons sometimes. Maybe a celebrity or a friend or someone else in their life is going vegan, so they decide to give it a go. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that. I don't think there's a wrong way to go vegan, but I do think that if your reason for going vegan is just because someone else around you has done it, it might not be the best motivation long term. So consider your deeper why for doing what you're doing. For me, my top concern was health. And I know for a lot of vegans, that's not necessarily a very popular starting point, because there's this perception that if you go vegan for your health, you might not stay vegan for your health, depending on how life goes and what happens. But for me, health was the starting point. It wasn't just, I'm going vegan for my health, period. So going vegan doesn't necessarily have anything to do with health. The definition does not say anything about eating a healthy diet or anything like that. The definition of veganism from the Vegan Society: veganism is a philosophy and way of living which seeks to exclude, as far as is possible and practicable, all forms of exploitation of and cruelty to animals for food, clothing, or any other purpose, and by extension promotes the development and use of animal-free alternatives for the benefit of animals, humans, and the environment. In dietary terms, it denotes the practice of dispensing with all products derived wholly or partly from animals. So that definition does actually mention the environment, but at its core, veganism is really about minimizing harm to the animals. So although a vegan diet can be incredibly healthful and incredibly health promoting, and many people do start their vegan journey from a health perspective, a vegan diet can also be filled with vegan junk food, filled with French fries and Oreos and Coca-Cola and all sorts of other foods like that, a lot of highly processed foods. So a vegan diet is not necessarily a super, super healthy diet unless you're eating a lot of whole foods and you're planning it appropriately so that it is incredibly healthy. Let go of perfectionism. It can be really easy when you first go vegan to want to get it 100% and do it perfectly and have everything be 100% vegan right from the off, right away. And it can honestly take a bit of time and a bit of practice, especially if you're not someone who's already used to reading labels when you're shopping. And some things that you just sort of take for granted are vegan aren't, like certain dark chocolate chips, for example, but they have milk powder in them. Pasta sauces that have milk ingredients and or cheese in them. Other items that you might think are vegan, but they're not. And then on the other side of things, you'll find items that, hey, I didn't think this would be a vegan item, and it happens to be, and that's really cool, and that's really exciting. So let go of being a, quote, perfect vegan. Nowhere in the definition of veganism does it say that you need to be 100% perfectly vegan 100% of the time. It says that veganism is a philosophy and way of living which seeks to exclude, as far as is possible and practicable, all forms of exploitation and cruelty to animals. So do the best you can, especially in the beginning. If you make a mistake, it sucks, it's frustrating, but return the product, use the product up, and then you learn from your mistake and move on. Don't dwell on it. Don't get too fretful with it. The other aspect of this perfectionism situation, if you're going vegan for health reasons, and that's part of why you're doing it, can be getting really caught up in what do I eat and how do I optimize this as much as possible? And am I going to get enough of XYZ nutrient? Am I going to get enough protein? What supplements do I need to take, this and that? And I think those questions are completely valid, and it's important to do your research and get the information that you need so that you do have a well-planned vegan diet, so that you continue to feel well and you continue to be vegan and eat a plant-based diet. But at the same time, getting really caught up in the particulars and all the little nitty-gritty details and wanting it to be 100% perfect can lead you down a dark path as well. Touch base with a trusted healthcare provider, touch base with your doctor, touch base with a dietitian. I did both of those things when I first went vegan and when I was wanting to feed my child a vegan diet. And both my doctor and the dietitian that I dealt with, they were not plant-based healthcare providers. However, they did understand what I was doing, why I was doing it, and they said that I was perfectly fine, and they gave me a few tip sheets about getting enough iron and getting enough calcium and supplementing B12 and all of these things. So I highly encourage seeking out healthcare providers that you trust. If you're more comfortable with a plant-based or lifestyle medicine provider, you can also do that. I have also done that in the past, and that has been really helpful as well. Also, for anyone who's concerned about meeting all your nutrient needs on a vegan diet, rest assured that it is absolutely possible to meet all your nutrient requirements, all your nutritional needs with a well-planned vegan diet. It is the position of the American Dietetic Association that appropriately planned vegetarian diets, including total vegetarian or vegan diets, are healthful, nutritionally adequate, and may provide health benefits in the prevention and treatment of certain diseases. If you're concerned about getting all the nutrition that you need, I will leave a few resources below, some websites and some visual information that can be really helpful, like plate method, sort of how to put your plate together so that you make sure you're getting enough servings throughout the day of all of the different food groups and items that you need to nourish yourself and feel your best. And if you're someone who's going vegan who's not as concerned about the health angle and is way more concerned about the animals and or the environment, that's cool too. That's totally fair and understandable. I would encourage you to maybe eventually look into different health reasons for eating a vegan diet, or looking into eating more whole foods and more whole food plant-based foods just for the sake of your own health. I've seen dramatic improvements in my own health after making those changes. So I would encourage anyone to look into it, but especially when you're getting started, lean into your why and what's really important to you and what's going to keep you on the path of being vegan and making it work for you. Another thing that really helped me in the beginning was mindset shifts. I think a lot of people think that being vegan is so difficult and oh my gosh, what am I going to eat? What am I going to buy? I can't buy leather anymore. I can't do this. I can't do that. And instead of having this I can't perspective and kind of the FOMO, fear of missing out perspective, I really switched that into this is what I'm choosing. This is what I want to do. This is part of my values. This is what's important to me. I'm choosing. I'm making conscious choices all the time about what I'm going to put into my body and what I'm going to wear on my body and what I'm going to put on my face, makeup wise and things like this. And it's important to me. So there's no fear of missing out because I'm making this choice with a full awareness and in a very intentional way that I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything, really, except for the cruelty and that's it. So for me, it was less about I can't do this anymore, or I can't eat this way anymore. It was more so I choose veganism, I choose this, I'm happy about it, I'm thrilled about it, and I'm going to make it work. I'm going to figure it out. I don't know how to cook. I don't like vegetables. I don't like beans. I don't like salads. But hey, I can figure this out. I can make this work. I can find products that are vegan in the stores. I can make simple meals. I can do this. I can make it work. And I can choose what I want or don't want to support. And I really don't want to support anything that is not vegan. So I do my best, and I'm not perfect. I will fully admit that mistakes still happen here and there, but I do my best to keep it vegan. The other thing that's helpful there is that there are so many vegan options now, whether you're looking at different food items, different plant-based leather alternatives, cosmetics, hygiene products, like there's so many vegan options. So if I don't need to contribute to animal suffering, and if I don't need to contribute to animal agriculture and that whole system and that whole industry, then why would I? To me, it doesn't make sense. Another thing that was really, really helpful to me, especially in the beginning, but even now, is staying connected and knowing that I'm not alone. So I mentioned previously, I was the first vegan that I knew. I didn't know anyone else who was vegan. And so in the beginning, it did feel a little isolating and I was a little bit lonely in it. But I kept reminding myself that there are so many people who are living this lifestyle, who are thriving, who are loving it and enjoying it and finding new recipes and finding new ways of doing this and finding new products and seeing it as sort of an adventure instead of a daunting task. And in the beginning, I really didn't have many people in person that I could connect with. I did have my mom who was interested in plant-based eating at the time, and so I could connect with her, which was very nice, but I really didn't know anyone else who was even remotely interested in eating a plant-based diet or veganism or anything like that. So I found community online, and I found YouTube videos and I watched those, and I found different conferences or different online summits and things that I could watch so that I could really learn more about what I was doing and why I was doing it, and at the same time build a certain sense of community. I also went to a conference in person very early on in my vegan transition, and I went with my mom, which is great. We went to the Remedy Food Project conference in Toronto, which was wonderful. There were so many great speakers there, and it was really awesome. I also went to Veg Fests and listened to talks there, and I was able to hear Victoria Moran speak and many other vegans and plant-based eaters who were talking on a variety of different topics. So I think staying connected and knowing that you're not alone, even if it feels like you're the only person around you who is doing this and who is focused on this, you're not alone. There are so many other people. So reach out online. There's a lot of different YouTube channels and different communities. I like to think of this channel as a mini little community, and we chat in the comments. And in case you didn't already know, when I post a video, I do hang out in the comments right after the video is posted. I try to stick around for the first about an hour after I post the video, just so that if anyone is wanting to connect, I'm there so I can respond right away, and it's a nice way to stay connected with you, and you can sort of chat with me as well. So feel free to leave me comments in the comments section, commenting on the video, asking questions, sharing your experience. I love all of that, so feel free to go ahead and do that. I really hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful. Thank you so much for watching. I sincerely appreciate each and every one of you who are watching the channel. I know there are a lot of new people to the channel since I came back after being away for quite a long time, so welcome to the newbies, and also welcome back to people who have been kind of waiting for me to come back. And here I am, and I'm thrilled to be back and reconnecting and connecting with all of you. Let me know in the comments what kind of videos you'd like to see next. I have a lot of ideas and a lot of plans, but I would also love to hear from you about what you would like to see on the channel. Remember to like the video, subscribe, share it with anyone who you think might enjoy it or find it helpful, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!